Good morning, and welcome back to Tuesdays with Tuesday. My name is Tuesday, and I write fantasy fiction under the name Mary E. Twomey. We just finished last week reading Savage Hearts. That was a big deal. That was 23 chapters that we spent together. That's 23 weeks of us being patient with each other. Let's face it, you had to be more patient with me than I had to be with you. Today we're going to read Taste. This is chapter 1 of the Tearaway series, and I have a confession for you. I don't own the latest update of my own book. This is the original cover, which is perfectly lovely. I got the covers redone last year to be more like every now and then you got to update your covers to make sure that they're reflecting what the genre would like to communicate at that time. So I only have the original cover and not the newest one. So when you go online to look for Taste for yourself, if you want to read ahead or just have it on your Kindle so that you remember our happy times together where I read to you on YouTube and you're like, oh my gosh, the memories. It will be a different looking cover than this. It will be like flowers and it looks very pretty. I feel very lucky to have worked with a lot of very talented graphic artists. Anytime I get a cover redone, it's never because they did a bad job or anything. It's just because the trends have changed and we need a little facelift every now and then. So I feel very grateful to have stumbled across these wonderful artists who are so patient with me and many authors who we work in like word mediums, different fonts and whatnot, not visual this. I can't really communicate what I would like on a cover. So I have tremendous respect for all the graphic artists who are cursed to work with me in particular, but authors in general who are not really great at communicating pictures. All right. So we are going to start chapter 1 of Taste. The other caveat, there's a million caveats today, but it's our first video of the new book. So there's just going to be caveats. We're just going to be patient with it. The other caveat, if you remember from reading Savage Hearts with me, I do not reread my own books. I write at a decent pace. Sometimes I wish I was writing a little bit faster, but I write at a decent pace, which means I only have room in my brain for 20,000 stories at a time, or one at a time, which means that as soon as I finish writing a series and editing it and it starts getting published, it is out of my mind. I don't remember much about it, given a few months passing, because I'm already elbow deep into a different series, different folklore, different characters. I like to be completely immersed in what I'm currently writing, which means everything else just kind of trickles out in my haze of blondness. So you're going to be surprised at some of these things because you haven't read it, and I'm going to be super surprised at some of these things even though I wrote it. So best of luck to us both. This book, Taste, is book 1 in the 9-part Tearaway series. The monsters and magic words are based in Filipino folklore. The cast is an inclusive, different backgrounds. Not everyone is Filipino in this, as opposed to Savage Hearts, which was Latino and Hispanic folklore, and all the characters were also Latino and Hispanic. This is how they take Greek mythology and make it modern day. That's kind of what this is, only it's Filipino folklore. I highly recommend researching Filipino folklore. It is very interesting enough to have inspired 9 books from me alone, much less the bajillions of other authors who are have you heard about Filipino folklore? It's really cool. All right. Tuck yourself in on the couch, in your bed, in your chair, wherever you are watching YouTube at the moment. Get yourself some water in case you haven't hydrated yourself recently. You matter, water matters. Let's do that. Let's take a little bit of time to just slow down, not multitask as much as we possibly can. I know that's really hard. And just let me read to you. Chapter 1. Freddy Krueger, Bugs, and Wolves. Ollie's laugh was a welcome sound. warming my heart as my brother's familiar cadence reached me through my cell phone. What if I give you $1 million? Will that get me out of meeting Bev's new boyfriend? Not even if you offered me $10 million, I replied with a smile on my face. I loved it when my brother laughed. Had you said you'd buy me a pack of gum, I'd have let you out of meeting the man who could turn out to be your future stepfather. No problem. Ollie let out a dramatic groan, sounding 8 years younger than me, even though he was really 8 years older. Don't say stepfather. You know he won't last. They never do. That doesn't sound like ideal stepson talk, I scolded, pretending to be the adult, so at least there was one present for this conversation. This is important to Bev, so be a good son for her. Try to be pleasant. Ollie sighed, and I could picture his hazel eyes that matched mine, rolling back at the very notion he should be seen as a son to our mama. Yeah, fine. I'll bring my best fake smile, and I'll even say nice things to him like, please do tell me about your criminal record. And wow, you still have some of your own teeth. And how fascinating you don't have a job. Think of all the free time. A chuckle escaped before I could suppress it. The deeply programmed guilt rippled over me that rose up whenever we poked fun at Bev's expense. Be nice now. I'm only coming to hang with you. How about I skip the new guy meet and greet and just catch you after? My tone turned southern and bossy as I tucked a stray auburn curl behind my ear, using my knee to steer the car. Oliver James, if you ditch me, I'm pretty much going to crazy murder you. You haven't seen Bev in years. Bite the bullet. I could hear the fondness in my older brother's voice. Ah, but you're the good child, the blessed child, October Grace, the daughter who stayed in Georgia to look after our psychotic mama. You know very well you should have moved away like Allie and I did. He paused for a beat at the mention of our estranged sister, but then sniggered at my threat. Crazy murder? Well, I should hope you don't opt for our regular run-of-the-mill offing. I'd at least like my death to make the front page. I scoffed good-naturedly. What are you, the mayor? If you want the front page, I'll have to break out the fancy tools. I spotted a large abomination of dust on the dashboard. I'd just detailed Terrence, my Taurus, but there the dust sat, mocking me and throwing up the middle finger that it wouldn't be banished. I swiped it away, wishing again that all the dirt and dust in the universe would just stay out of my car, my house, and my world. I mean, is that too much to ask? I don't want to go to this thing, Ollie whined. Ditch me and you'll regret it. I know all the good places to dump a body if you leave me to go meet new boyfriend alone. He let out an audible shudder. You creep me out when you say stuff like that because I know it's true. I gave Ollie my best evil villain chortle. I was thinking we should have a Nightmare on Elm Street marathon when you come to town next week. All Freddy, all night. Sleep with one eye open if you dare. I'm just happy you're willing to entertain a movie marathon that doesn't star Bruce Campbell. Do you have a problem with my first love? No, I have a problem watching Evil Dead for the 100 millionth time. He cleared his throat, and I could tell he was gearing up to say something he was reluctant to voice. I'm staying at Gabby's the first night I come into town, and maybe the night after, too. Freddy Krueger will have to wait. I whispered in my creepy witch voice, Freddy waits for no one! I shook my head at my brother's old habits. You're back with Gabby? Do I need to tell you that you're a masochist? How many times are you going to get together and break up with her? I don't know, maybe 10. My attention was distracted when something black skittered across my dashboard, drawing my eye and making my spine tingle. What the? I scratched the back of my hand and grabbed a wipe from the package I kept in my glove box. Still steering with my knee, I smashed the trespassing ant, keeping an eye on the road as best I could. The trees and grass that dotted the side of the road would have been a much better home than my car. Poor ant didn't have a clue. I longed to wash my hands, but suppressed the urge as best I could. What's wrong? Ollie inquired, noting my diverted attention. A bug in my car, right after some dust on my dashboard. I just detailed it, too. Ollie's pause was not unexpected, nor was the parental mode he slipped into without missing a beat. You all right? I'm fine, just annoyed. It's like one of the two places I like to keep clean. I brother's response was quiet and controlled. Life is messy, October, and that's okay. I sighed at the mantra he drilled into my head, wishing that one day I'd get to a point where I didn't still need to hear it. I was about to concede that he was right, that dust and one single ant was nothing to be concerned with, but my hackles rose when a line of ants marched out from under the passenger seat. They traced up the console just to stare at me, repeating the speedy path of the damned onto my dashboard, drawing my focus. They stared at me, paused between my steering wheel and the odometer, studying me with their beady little eyes that had intention. Bev's trailer was always filled with a wide variety of bugs and critters, but these ants had marched with purpose in my direction. I let out a noise of distress when a row of cockroaches followed behind, facing me on the dash to make up a second row of gawkers. What's up, kiddo? I tried to keep my eyes on the road, the city giving way to thicker smattering of trees that dotted the landscape. The cockroaches were starting to freak me out, not because I was scared of them, but because cockroaches were naturally afraid of daylight, and these guys were out on their own free will in the late morning sun that shone through my windshield. Weird. I needed to scratch the back of my hand, but gripped the steering wheel tight and clutched my cell phone to keep myself from slipping back into bad habits. When a small army of furry black caterpillars inched out from under the passenger seat and climbed up the dash by the dozens, I let out a shriek, sweat breaking out on my forehead. They looked like a line of mobile Groucho Marx eyebrows moving unapologetically into my view. Gross! Get out! I kept a steady hand on the steering wheel, willing myself not to lose control of the car. I tried not to think about what kind of filth I must somehow have missed that had attracted these creatures to me in droves. October, hey, what's wrong? My car is dirty, I screeched, not ready to admit to my brother that I was so filthy, apparently, that the car I'd tried to keep immaculately clean was now infested with bugs that inched closer to me like I was their target. I could practically feel them crawling on my skin, so I scraped at my arms again, hoping to alleviate some of the tension that was building to blow the top of my stress volcano. Ollie! Ollie's voice tried to calm me through what he probably assumed was a freakout over a few dust bunnies. Life is messy, and that's okay, he repeated. After this stupid dinner next week, I'll clean your car myself. You'll see. We'll get all the dust out, and it'll be good as new. I'm here, kiddo. That would have been comforting, but a rattling noise sounded in the front of my car, making me even more apprehensive. My car was perfect. It was supposed to be perfect. It was only a year old, and I took meticulous care of it. What could possibly be wrong with the engine? I let out a horror movie-style scream and dropped the phone when a zillion tiny white moths flooded the interior of the car through the vents. They pelted my skin and fluttered their germ-filled wings in my ears. I let my foot off the gas, swerving in and out of oncoming traffic as I tried to get a grip on my panic. My heart pounded in my chest as a flash of my body, fresh from a car wreck, surfaced in my imagination. They'd haul my carcass out of the bug-infested wreckage, no doubt disgusted to see someone driving with a car that was overloaded with insects. I was filthy, as I'd always suspected, and tried so hard not to be. My brother would come to collect my bug-spattered body, wondering how it all went so wrong. Air was suddenly difficult to suck through my lungs. I needed to find a safe place to pull over, but the moths were in my face. I thought it couldn't get any worse until something slimy slithered up my pant leg. I shrieked and kicked my right foot without thinking, slamming on the gas by accident. The moths began to flutter around the car, giving me a glimpse of the road I was swerving down more precariously than Evel Knievel had a right to. I hadn't seen the half-naked, brown-skinned, mid-30s dude standing in the middle of the road next to a gray wolf, like a legit wolf. My brain processed things in the wrong order when I caught sight of what looked like hundreds of fat worms crawling all over the man's muddy skin. My foot scrambled for the brake, stomping down too late, I was certain. Without meaning to, I screamed and shut my eyes like a baby, praying I didn't hit the guy and fling his bug-riddled body into a swift death. I I braced myself for the crash, but it never came. When Terrence the Taurus screeched to a halt, it took a solid 3 seconds before I could open my eyes to take in what damage I'd done. Quick as I could, I pulled off to the side with shaking fingers and a scared whimper, grateful the road was fairly deserted at this time of day. I scrambled out of my car and crashed through the green and brown bramble that lined the roadside, leaving the door wide open to escape the bug's stuffed vehicle. It was either that I permitted the bugs to infest me, or that I let the wolf eat me, and I was too turned around to make anything like an educated decision. I had to locate the dude I'd almost hit and make sure he was okay. Before I turned my head to the street, I closed my mouth through a terrified scream when bugs poured out of my car, flying and scurrying toward the open road. The cloud of insects dissipated out into the sparse bits of nature behind me and across the street. The creepy, crawly army was now cloaked behind trees and a few knee-high bushes. The dude was gone. I mean, simply vanished, as was the wolf. They'd been in the middle of the road, plain as day, but looking around now, they were nowhere. The man's brown skin, tall physique, and broad, naked shoulders should have been easy to pick out, especially factoring in that he'd been covered in streaks of mud and worms. How exactly was a large gray wolf supposed to up and disappear, like some kind of twisted magic trick? Gone. I mean, just utterly nowhere. I clawed at the backs of my hands as my anxiety hit a new level. My perfect car had been polluted so horribly, and I almost killed someone in the mess of it all. I sunk to my knees, hugged my middle, and rocked myself on the side of the road. "I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy," I chanted over and over to myself. Ollie would never send me to a hospital. The fear that I was insane was never all that far off, but hallucinations were a new one. Usually it was only my OCD that kept me dosed with a healthy fear of being hauled away if it all got to be too much. If I got to be too much. I took my sweet time calming myself down. I focused on steadying my breaths and summoning up all the mantras my brother and sister had drilled into my head over the years. They'd done everything so I wouldn't be the crazy girl, rocking herself on the side of the road. I didn't have it in me to tell them they might have failed. When it dawned on me that there was a wolf roaming about, my trembling legs finally found their way back into my car. I looked around, noticing with surprise that the interior was shockingly clean. There was no trace of the insect invasion anywhere. I knew my meds didn't have anything resembling a hallucinatory side effect on the warning label, but the whole ordeal was so confusing. I was starting to wonder how much of my spluttering brain was firing correctly. October! I scrambled to retrieve my phone, wiping it down so the floor germs didn't attack my face when I pressed the device to my cheek. I didn't know how long my brother had been calling for me. "Ollie?" "What happened?" he thundered, fear controlling his oft-swinging temper. My eyes darted to the road nervously, as if I was holding a dime bag under my seat. I didn't want the world to know that I was dirty, that bugs had crawled in my car. I saw a bug. A few bugs, actually. I swallowed, not wanting my brother, of all people, to think I was filthy. I dropped the phone because I had to slam on the brakes real quick. Something was in the road. Or someone. Ollie calmed with my explanation. "You scared me. You all right?" "I think so." My voice came out pinched as I worked out the next words I couldn't keep from spilling out of me. "I don't want you to ever send me to a mental hospital, Ollie. Promise me." My brother's reply came out slow and practiced. "You know I would never send you away. If you feel yourself tipping over the edge, I will come and get you. And you'll stay in New York with me. Nowhere safer. Then we can be crazy together." I breathed a gust of relief that the world was still spinning on its usual axis. There were no more bugs, no one who was almost murdered by my mid-motor freakout, and my brother was coming home next week for a visit. Everything would be all right. I had plenty of sanitizer in my glove box to clean up the mess I'd managed to escape. "Okay, thank you. I think I'm all right now." Ollie was patient with me and never condescending. "October, your car is clean. You don't need to worry about a little dust and a couple of ants. I pinched the bridge of my nose and let out a steady exhale. You're right. Tell me you'll be there for Bev's special dinner next week? I could hear the softness that only came when Ollie smiled. Are you kidding me? You're my favorite person. I wouldn't miss it for the world. That is the end of chapter 1. We did it! We read chapter 1 of a new book together. I'm so proud of us. Thank you for letting me read to you. And I know you're not going to call me on this because you're super duper nice, so I'm just going to say it. I messed up on the very first sentence of the very first book in this series, and you were still nice to me. Thank you. Thank you for being generous and kind, and for letting me make mistakes. I don't know what your book goals are for this year. Not that you need to have goals for everything, or book goals at all. My goal for this year was to read 50 books. And I crossed that margin and I'm so happy. And I'm keeping on going. So if you have books that you would like to recommend to me, put them in the comments below. I'm very much into nonfiction. I like historical stuff, but not like super long ago, more like last century, not like founding fathers kind of historical. That just sort of, that's not my calling. I like nonfiction social commentaries of modern day stuff. I will not turn down a self-help book. I usually get at least one happy thing out of that, or useful thing at least. And let's see, I do enjoy some fiction. I like fantasy fiction, obviously that's what I write. However, I don't read as much fantasy fiction as I probably should. So feel free to recommend pretty much anything in the comments below and I'll see what sticks. Thank you for spending time with me today. Every Tuesday I'm going to read you the next chapter of the book. So I'll see you every Tuesday. Bye.